Whenever somebody asks me if I have any regrets in life, my response is generally, no, I don't have any regrets because my mistakes got me where I am now. Well, when I take a trip down memory lane to recall some of the worst dates I've ever been on, I begin to eat my words. So in no particular order, let's discuss some of the worst dates I've ever had. And in starting things off, I recall going on a date with a guy who, throughout the conversation and kind of learning about what each other was doing, I could tell he was being a little bit, he was either nervous or a little bit coy to give certain details about certain aspects of his life and specifically his job and his profession, until he finally told me that he was essentially a drug dealer. I'm an open-minded person and I'm a kind person. I'm not about to make him feel bad for that line of profession, but that's only part of the story. Because the latter half of the date, we need to drive somewhere. He has something for a friend. And so we got there and he got out and met his friend, seeing them in my rearview window. And I'm like, oh, this is a transactional stop. Did you sell the drugs? I don't think it's the best scenario to carry through with the transaction while on a date. Maybe try to coordinate your efforts so they're separate. Oh, fucking shit. Another date, and this is probably, can easily be one of the most grueling dates I've ever been on because it was so boring. At the beginning of the date, the first few minutes of figuring it out and realizing like, oh my God, this is the date where time stood still. What the fuck kind of Doctor Who episode are we in right now? Is it acceptable to cut the date short at an hour? I told myself just make it 90 minutes. An hour and a half is perfectly acceptable. Just scream and get out of there. I'm such a talker. I can converse with anybody and everybody, but you kind of need to give me a little something to work from. I was begging for topics within my brain. I'm like, what the fuck do we talk about? I swear we talked about the weather at some point. I kid you not. I was grasping at straws. I lived in Arizona, so I'm like, how about this heat? What the fuck is up with that? And I kept thinking like, he must be thinking the same thing. This is not going well. This is excruciating. And it was later that he mentioned wanting to go on another date. So apparently he thought it was going well, but I never saw him ever again. Another not so great date I went on was with a guy who basically is incapable of making a plan. If I initiate asking somebody on a date, I'm going to plan the time and where we're going and what we do. But if you're asking me out on a date, I'm expecting you to take the initiative to come up with where we're going and what we're doing. We were just walking around an outdoor mall, figuring out what to do, and also the personality was just, it was just clashing. It was very, very clear to me that this person really had no plan whatsoever as to what we did. And at one point we ended up going into a candy store because I think he was craving candy. The night came to a close and I went home. He texted me saying, I almost thought of kissing you at the end of that. I mean, I'd be impressed if you could, considering how many Jawbreakers you were eating, ironically. This next one is a little bit of a stretch, but I will count it as a type of date because it involved like a little mini group date. It was where I took this guy out whom I had been recently started, seeing, and wanted to, integrate him with a couple of my closest friends, where we all went to dinner together. He could not have looked more disinterested to be there, which was not his personality, and he was on his phone. He was so incredibly distant with me and my friends, and it's not like he and I had just met. We had established a type of chemistry. I would not have brought him along to meet a couple of my closest friends if I didn't, want to integrate him with that group. And we weren't even being negligent. We were very engaging. He was included, but he was on his fucking phone. It was just bad. Now I am going to call myself out because I am not the master of perfect dates by any means, and I've had a couple failures. And the next date I want to talk about is a date that I failed. The intention was there, but the execution was utter failure. And I wanted to surprise the guy I was taking out on the date with a fun activity. This is a guy I'd been seeing already, so this isn't like a first date. And this one, I wanted to surprise him by taking him ice skating because we hadn't been ice skating together, and I thought I would change things up. And then we were gonna go to this pizza restaurant after, but I knew about it because they were known for this organ player, and they put on these fun shows while you're eating pizza within this restaurant, and the atmosphere sounded cool. I'd never been there before, but sure, let's try both of them. So we go to the ice skating rink. He expressed that they don't skate. They've never really done it, or they've hated it when they tried to do it or whatnot. They had little to no experience with it. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, let's just try it. We came all the way out here. I've already gotten us the passes. This could be a fun experiment and see how this goes. So we get on our skates and we go out there, and he literally gets inside the rink and maybe walks along the railing for maybe 2 feet, and then just gave up and said, no, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do this. He didn't even try. He didn't even go on like one trip around the rink with me. And that is what really, it bummed me out, because, okay, you can hate something, but you haven't really given me any reason why you hate something. But the fact that he would not even move more than 2 feet outside the rink and gave up and was like, I'm just gonna go sit, you can go ice skate. That really started to sour the night. And then, I was like, okay, you're obviously not gonna come out here, and I'm not gonna go ice skate by myself. We're on a fucking date, so let's just leave. So we went to the pizza place, and basically I feel like it could be like a Chuck E. Cheese pizza restaurant with an organ player in the middle. The whole crowd was like a bunch of families with kids. I mean, it was cool to see the organ player in the middle of the room, and it's a huge ass organ, and he's kind of like a jukebox. He's playing a bunch of songs, but the atmosphere screamed Chuck E. Cheese family, and it was not the best setting for a date for 2 gay men. The failed skating, the failed restaurant made for a failed date night. Now, I already talked about the date that was super fucking boring, but I also went on a date with a guy to where it's like, wow, you really kind of need to stop talking. There are certain personalities that blend together and some that do not, and there are some personalities, at least to me, that can kind of come off a bit obnoxious. Funnily enough, I mean, we went back to his place at the end of the night, and let's just say I enjoyed him a lot more when he wasn't talking. Other activities that don't involve talking actually happened to be fun, so it was short-lived, but half of it was enjoyable. Also, one of the worst dates I went on, and I'm gonna call it a date. It was with somebody I had been seeing for a few months. We were on a weekend getaway. I think it was in Malibu, and it was a beachfront restaurant with access to the beach. I made a brunch reservation. It was the last leg of our trip, and we had been dating, and we had gotten more serious, and I had made the decision that at the end of brunch, I was going to seize the romantic setting and the romantic opportunity and tell him that I loved him. And so we had our brunch. We had a great walk along the beach. We took some really adorable pictures together. I walk him out to the dock, and it's just us out on the dock, and it's beautiful. I'm such a settings person. I want to make those movie moments. And I hold him, and I look at him, and I tell him that I loved him. And he did not say it back. I wanted to jump into the water and sing, I don't want to be part of this world. I was mortified, I was embarrassed, I was sad, I was angry, I was getting flushed. I was like, wow, there's a reason these moments are in movies. But I've saved the worst for last. The worst date I've ever been on. One of my friends went out to dinner one night, and she said that, oh, our server is so cute, and I feel like you guys would like really compliment each other, you'd really work well together, and I showed him your picture, he thinks you're cute too, I kind of want to set you up. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. I mean, she showed me his picture, he looked like a good looking guy, and apparently he thought I was too by my picture that she was showing off at the restaurant. So I went out with my girlfriend, this girlfriend of mine. We went out because we were gonna go to the same restaurant another night so we could essentially meet him, with him being our server. I could tell that, I mean, I'm super friendly, and I think there's a level amount of polite flirtation happening between the two of us. I'm getting the impression like we both enjoy what we're seeing right now. At least I'm getting that impression. And so at the end of the night, I decide to leave my number on my receipt that I left him. And so I wrote my number on the receipt and left. And he texted me. He took down my number and texted me. We exchanged it. It was great to meet each other, and it would be nice to go out for drinks sometime. And I think I remember telling him about one of my favorite places to go for drinks, and so it's like, why don't we meet up for drinks there this week? And so we established that we're gonna meet for drinks. And I don't text him anymore until the day of our date. And I text him, I think earlier on in the day, just saying, hey, hope you have a great day, looking forward to seeing you tonight. No response, which I was like, oh, okay, well, weird. I'm sure I made up about, 14 excuses as to why he didn't text me back, but whatever. So I went to the restaurant, and I perch myself up at the bar, right near the entrance, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I text him with no response. And it was about 45 minutes into the date that I realized that I was being stood up for the first time in my life. I'm like, wow, this is happening. All right. Here's what doesn't make sense is, if you weren't interested in going on a date with me, then why did you text me? There was no obligation for you to text me. I left him my number on a receipt, and he didn't have to use it. He could have thrown it away and saved me some time. The bartenders, took pity on me. I had been conversing with them throughout the night, and they could see this little pathetic guy at the end of the bar who just got stood up. So they comped my drinks that I ordered, and I had dinner on my own, but chatting with them. So I was around friends at the end of the evening, but that was quite the experience. Thank you. Next. And there's my collection of some of the worst dates I've been on in my life, and only a couple of them resulted in just a handful of sessions of therapy. You live and you learn, that's part of life, and they can make for some pretty funny stories. There you have it, everyone. I'd be curious, what are some of your worst date experiences? Feel free to go to town below, and as always, thank you all again for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Ryan Boehme, signing off. Bye, everyone.